and welcome to Tech Talk, where you'll hear the latest in technology and investment trends directly from the trendsetters. I'm your host, Fritz Spencer, member of EisnerAmper's Technology and Life Sciences practice, and with me today is successful entrepreneur Harrison Gross, CEO and co-founder of Lucid. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to EisnerAmper wherever you listen to your podcasts, and you can also find us on YouTube at EisnerAmper. In this episode, we'll explore how Lucid is addressing a serious need in the market: stylish, ergonomic, and user-friendly smart glasses at an affordable price point. Today's insightful conversation could influence the next steps for your startup. Harrison, thank you so much for joining me today. Pleasure to have you.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
And to get us introduced, why don't you, in 2 to 3 sentences, explain your startup's mission for our audience?
Yeah, so our mission is to upgrade the world's eyewear by adding useful technology features to comfortable prescription-ready glasses. We're making the world's most important wearable better by allowing you to use it to stay safely and seamlessly connected to your digital life.
At EisnerAmper, we are creative problem solvers that take a 360-degree approach focusing on you. We're an award-winning firm with decades of experience. EisnerAmper, let's get you ready.
Awesome. And we touched on it a little bit in the intro. What was the challenge you were aiming to solve by founding this company and developing your products?
Yeah, so me and my co-founders are all lifelong glasses wearers. And we started the company. There were no smart eyewear solutions that were really suitable for all-day prescription wear. That was the main gap in the market that we set out to fill. A few years after we started, we introduced the first smart eyewear that really, in our view, looked and felt like normal glasses. And this really helped the company take off and reach a much wider audience than we had in our crowdfund phases.
Great. And how do you guys stand out, or what approach did you take to stand out to others in the same market?
Yeah, so it all started with our design philosophy, where we really approach smart eyewear as eyeglasses first and not consumer electronics first. And this sort of optical first perspective really informed the development of the product over the years. And really, we really put first and foremost this concept that the frame should be light, thin, and really match the look and feel and functionality of traditional eyeglasses or sunglasses. And then, and only then, once you accomplish that, can you add on some additional smart features to enhance the glasses with new functionality. So we start with our core product. It really does look like a normal pair of glasses. You couldn't tell if it was smart eyewear if I didn't tell you, for example, while sort of offering all of that traditional vision correction and protection that consumers are used to from their regular eyewear. We've added in this Bluetooth audio interface that allows you to not only listen to music and take phone calls on your eyewear, but also speak to ChatGPT. So it's really like having a second brain living in your glasses. And that's really what makes them smart. And then the fact that our glasses are the same price as regular eyewear is really what makes it disruptive in our view. The consumer is getting so much more value and utility at the same price as a normal pair of glasses.
Thanks. I love that explanation, and for diving in a little bit to the tech. I noted you guys have over 110 patents, and let's talk more about that technology that you developed and how it's solving that problem.
Yeah, so obviously if you're making any tech product, you need the intellectual properties to support it and protect it in the marketplace. And that's, especially true for an emerging category like smart eyewear. So our technologies, we've been developing in-house for a number of years. We developed about 70 patents, me and my team, and then we licensed another 40 from another smart eyewear company. And together we've built a very strong IP moat around what we're doing. And these patents include everything from design patents on the look and feel of the glasses themselves to actual utility patents on companion software that we've developed, particular components of the glasses and different functionalities of the eyewear, all covered by a variety of these different patents. But really that is secondary. The most important thing about what we're doing is, making it easier to access information and communication through your eyewear, and making it easier for people to connect to each other and to information. In a hands-free heads-up wearable.
So like a lot of form and function before the tech too, is what you're saying.
Yeah, something like that. I would say Bluetooth audio interfaces, they're like a known art, right? There are zillions of companies producing Bluetooth audio products. That itself is not innovative, but doing it in a way that is really transformative and takes, a wearable that billions of people already wear every day, glasses, and making it more useful, more connected, more powerful. That's kind of what we're doing. And it's a little bit different from creating a new product. We really see it as an evolutionary step forward in the optical industry and eyeglasses themselves. Eyeglasses have been around for like 700 years since they were invented in Murano, Italy. And over those centuries, they've steadily seen improvements, usually to the lenses. Most of the benefits of technology over the years to eyewear have come in the lenses. So switching from glass to then plastic lenses, which are safer, and going from your traditional hand ground glass lenses to now AI generated machine cut prescriptions. So a lot of the technology has happened in the lens, but what we're actually bringing is a new frame technology. So our frame is all about the smart technology in the temples of the frames. So we really see this as just another step in this centuries long evolution of eyeglasses, as essentially one of the most, if not the most critical human accessory, fashion accessory, apparel accessory that we have as a species. Historically, all the improvements have come on the materials, the visual acuity, and now we're actually seeing an improvement in the core functionality of glasses for the first time.
Thanks. I love that little brief background on the history of glasses too. As I'm not a glasses wearer myself, that was very interesting. So you're using a mix of proprietary technology and licensing other patents and technology. What was some of the technology that you developed that's really either got you excited or piqued your interest and you've dove into really heavy?
Yeah. So one thing that I really like was, how do wearables and voice communication, and audio interfaces, how does this all connect vis-a-vis social media? And this was a really interesting kind of path that we went down. And one of our patents is called voice assistant management. And it basically covers a lot of claims having to do with voice-based social media. And this was a really interesting kind of trajectory that we went down because we know, obviously, our glasses being audio only, there's no visual interface. We wanted to still leverage that platform to create new social experiences. So we created this app called Verb, which is basically a version of Twitter that is designed to be used exclusively through voice and through hearing. So instead of opening the app and typing out a post, you speak the post through your wearable, and it gets posted to your profile as your actual voice. And then others can comment using their voices. And it's basically like trying to be a social media that's rather than being, images and text responding to each other, actual conversations happening, in people's voices on social media. So this was a really cool and different idea that we pursued with the Verb app. And it actually got kind of a facelift with we have a newer app called Lucid that powers all of our ChatGPT features. And we added a new feature to Lucid called Walkie, which allows you to have live voice conversations through your glasses with any number of people around the world. So seeing how this emerging technology platforms of wearables are interacting with this existing super saturated platforms of social media and how they're going to interact and interlace with each other. Just a really interesting field of study and development. And one that we have some intellectual property around because it's such a unique and emerging category. So it's something to think about when you introduce a new product is not just how this product exists in a silo and how it's going to serve the user directly between the user and that product. But how does this product exist within this wider landscape of systems and platforms that people are using? And this actually speaks really closely to our core design. One of our core interface philosophies of the glasses, we want it to be a sort of a device and operating system agnostic layer that adds new vocal interaction methods, new interfaces to the platforms that you already use. So making it easier to access the platforms, the intelligences, and the operating systems that you already use by adding this new voice interface layer to them through the eyewear. So this is a really interesting idea because it allows us to, we're not trying to displace any other existing technologies that people are using. We're trying to make them all easier to access for everyone. And there's something about that mission that just really speaks to our customer, I think, and why they choose us over a lot of other smart eyewear.
I love that. It's amazing as you're taking a 700-year-old technology and adapting it to today. You're making it integratable to everywhere and everything. And I think that's amazing. And that's got to be what has driven so much of your success. And speaking about some of that success, I mean, you went public in late 2022. That's a big process. Can you speak a little bit about that process for our listeners?
Well, in many ways, it was a natural step in our journey from the regulation crowd funds that we did on Start Engine, which in many ways can be like a junior IPO for a company because you're selling your shares on the open market, you're getting your company's whole brand philosophy out there, you're building up that initial community of investors and customers. In many ways, it is a microcosm of an IPO. So we had a lot of experience already with corporate filings, keeping our investor community updated, doing a lot of the things that are like incumbent on a public company. We had to do, from very early on, as part of the nature of crowdfunding, is you have to do a lot of these things that you do when you're a public company. So we had some experience kind of building that up, and we built this huge community around what we were doing. The regulation crowd funds, it was over like 6,000 investors came into the company across these crowd funds. We saw there was such an appetite for what we were doing, and so many people wanted to invest. The first one was oversubscribed and everything. We thought that doing an IPO would not only bring us access to capital that was necessary to really reach mass market penetration with our concept, but it was sort of like a logical next step now that we already had thousands of investors and people buying the stock already, and there was just a lot of interest in what we were doing. So it felt like making it available on a regular basis for people that wanted to invest was the right idea. And it was a long and difficult process. It took about a year or two. There were a couple of false starts, and we were dealing with a very, very challenging macroeconomic climate in 2022. When we did it, I think we were one of only a small handful of IPOs that quarter. It was a very challenging time to do it, but in the end, it ended up being the right thing to do. It allowed us to go on to raise millions of more dollars, through various funding mechanisms after the IPO. And this allowed us to, continue growing the company in ways that would have been impossible if we were private. And I think part of that also has to do, there isn't a geographical element. Like if you're a company based in, in San Francisco or even in New York City, you may have more access to capital as a private company. You may be able to go out and pitch to funds. You might be able to do things that are just a little bit harder to do when you're in Florida. As we are here. So this was like a great opportunity for us to really launch the company onto the national stage. And I think also it greatly helped legitimize the company in the eyes of potential partners. We're not just another LLC, we are a NASDAQ traded micro blue chip tech company.
Exactly. Well, you've hit like every milestone that I think any entrepreneur can dream of. So let's talk. You mentioned it really quickly there, but about your partnerships, and you've been partnering with these massive brands, and I'm sure there's a lot of complexities to that and demands in both directions. Can you tell me what has been either the most challenging or the most surprising piece of that process?
I would say, really adapting your technology and your product to a completely different customer. That's the most challenging part, because our Lucid House brand that we've been developing since 2017 or so, there's a pretty clear picture painted of who that customer is for Lucid. It's a bit more of a tech early adopter, kind of tech forward brand. So bringing on these other brands, Nautica, Eddie Bauer, and Reebok, which are not tech brand. Well, Reebok is a little bit of a tech apparel brand because they've introduced some tech products like the pump shoe and other things over the years. Bringing these brands in really helped diversify the product offering, and it's particularly important for eyewear, because eyewear is such a personal accessory. It's on your face all day, every day. So consumers really like, there are particular eyewear brands that resonate with them. So by kind of diversifying our product offering, so with Nautica, we're doing some mass market sunglasses. Eddie Bauer's more high end, older male styles. Reebok is obviously these athletic styles that we've done. And then Lucid's kind of our general all day use optical smart eyewear. This has allowed us to reach more audiences and also bring in these existing followings that those three brands have. So there's been a big benefit to that, and that now, the millions of Eddie Bauer, Nautica, and Reebok customers that are already out there have an exciting new product that they're, under their favorite brand that they can now buy. So that was a pretty cool aspect of it. And then also it's brought some clout to our negotiations with major retailers. So we can say, look, we're not just some fly-by-night company that you've never heard of. We have global multi-year licenses to some of the best-known brands in apparel and in sporting goods. And, let's work together and put this exciting new Reebok product in front of your customers. And it just kind of de-risks it in their mind. They know that there's a certain quality standard associated with these products. They know there's an existing consumer following. And in some cases, there's like significant retail proliferation of these. Like, Reebok is in every Walmart, and in a pretty big display too in the front of the store. So it's like, they're really all in on Reebok already. So it's really helped move the negotiation with some of the bigger retailers.
So what's next for Lucid? I would love to know what you guys are planning next and what's the next big goal you guys have.
The big goal is what I call the flip, I guess. And this is what happened in smartwatches already. So smartwatches like Eyewear, smart eyewear, are also built on a 600 to 700-year-old form factor, very globally accepted, globally known form factor of personal accessory. In fact, watches and glasses have a lot of similarities that go back pretty far. So what happened with watches is that, smartwatches have been around actually since like the 80s. You had, when we were growing up, we had the calculator watches some of the geeky kids had, and the Dick Tracy, walkie-talkie watches. There's different little kind of smartwatches going back historically, right? But in 2015, the Apple Watch came out and really perfected, the concept, the form factor, and all of that. And just 5 years after that, the entire market flipped worldwide, and now more smartwatches are sold than regular watches across the world. That's a pretty big statement. Watches have been around hundreds and hundreds of years, and the digital transformation reached an inflection point just 5 years ago, where now most watches, if you see someone wearing a watch on the street, chances are it's a smartwatch. We see the exact same thing coming for eyewear, especially as the form factors continue to get miniaturized, and they continue to look more and more like regular eyewear, cost the same as regular eyewear, have the same variety of styles, shapes, and brands as regular eyewear has. We're pretty much eliminating all costs of switching from regular eyewear to smart eyewear, just like Apple eliminated all costs of switching from a $300 regular watch to an Apple Watch. So we're kind of doing the same thing for eyewear, and we see this inflection point coming in the next 3 to 10 years. You'll have a flip. Most eyewear that's sold will be smart eyewear. And that's the future that we're trying to bring about, because smart eyewear can do more for the wearer. It makes them more intelligent by giving them access to incredibly powerful AIs. It makes it easier and more ergonomic to access information compared to looking at a phone screen. Overall, it's a great product to encourage active lifestyles and also accessing information and communications, but without being distracted by a screen. And so all of these reasons are, why we believe so strongly in the category, and why we think, consumers are going to start adopting smart eyewear en masse in the next few years once they really recognize the benefits that it brings. And once all of those sort of costs of switching and hurdles to mass market adoption have been fully answered, which we've been doing a pretty good job at over the past couple of years. And a lot of these hurdles, the frames were too bulky, the battery life wasn't long enough, the price was too high, they weren't prescription adaptable. All of the biggest problems in smart eyewear we have solved at some point in the last couple of years. And we really brought it to a point where anyone that wears eyeglasses or sunglasses can genuinely benefit from our product.
Wonderful. Well, as soon as you get that heads-up display, as a gamer, that's what I'm looking for. I need that so I can stop bumping into things. Well, Harrison, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me today.
Sure, absolutely. And I think touching on the heads-up display real quick, everyone thinks immersion is the next big thing, but people don't really necessarily want that. And I think that's why, for a lot of other reasons, perhaps, the whole VR revolution was kind of a dud. People don't really wear, the Vision Pro headsets or the Magic Leaps or any of the more immersive displays. And I think part of it is for most people in most scenarios, you want the sweet spot of access to information without being disconnected from your surroundings. And that's really where our product delivers, and where I think wearables in general can deliver a lot of value, more of a utility focused experience versus those entertainment experiences that you might be looking for.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you 100%, especially on the AR comment. I don't know if it was a downward movement, maybe a lateral, but also part of the foundation of tech, where it's like it'll be somewhere in the building blocks in the future, even if it wasn't adapted and commercialized today.
Right. Well, I see immersion is really useful for entertainment applications and for these other kind of like Xbox, use cases. But for your average like productivity workflows, I don't think it really adds too much. What does add a lot though is voice controlled AI assistants, where you can really get a lot of augmentation to your capabilities from a professional perspective. But this is really like there's a divergence in smart eyewear. There's a lot of different types that are emerging. There's some that are going to address specific deficiencies like the hearing aid glasses that just came out. There's some that are going to be more for immersive entertainment purposes, and they're going to have radically different form factors. And that's just part of this landscape. There's just a lot of different use cases and utilities, and I think the products are going to become more specialized to different users over time.
Yeah, I 100% agree. When my dad told me he could take his phone calls through his hearing aids now, I was like, we're getting the tech into everything. So I love it. And for those who'd like to follow Lucid's journey, what's the best way to connect with you and Lucid?
Yeah, so our website is lucyd.co. You can order our frames worldwide from there with any prescription. We also have, we're on social medias at LUCYD Eyewear on all major platforms. Check out our TikToks and all that.
Perfect. And then Lucy on NASDAQ, right?
Yes, Lucy is the NASDAQ ticker.
All right. Well, thanks again, Harrison, for speaking with me today. It was an absolutely wonderful conversation. And a special thanks to our listeners for tuning into Tech Talk, the entrepreneurs and innovators who turn to EisnerAmper for audit, tax, advisory, and outsourcing solutions. Again, subscribe to EisnerAmper's podcast to listen to more Tech Talk episodes, or visit EisnerAmper.com for more tech news that you can use.